1960s was a time of great social progress. But while other minorities made hard-fought headway, zombies were stuck in a rut.
That was our first movie that we made during the last writer's strike in 2007.
We laughed so much.
Oh man, thanks for watching that.
There were laws about where they could eat, how they could eat, what they could eat. There were many, many laws about eating.
You know, from the very beginning, man has feared the zombie.
This would be something we'd love to have been acting in. It looked like it was just so much fun to do.
Well, yeah. Everyone we know. So it was during the strike. Brendan and I, my writing partner, and I both worked below the line. I was in the art department. He was a boom operator, and we were unemployed. So we were just like, we'll write something. Well, we have no money. So we did it over like 6 months of weekends, and we had all our friends in it. One of my brothers is in it 5 times. He's like a zombie, awesome. A hippie, a National Guardsman. Like, we just kept putting him in different hats.
Kids on college campuses now saw this as a cause that they could maybe get behind.
It was really fun, but I look back and I'm like, man, I didn't know how to make a movie, and that thing does not need to be 27
That was great.
Zombies are where we want to be someday. And I think everyone's just jealous.
I loved it, man. We laughed so much that we watched it again because on a Discord group I'm with, it's a Wither universe. They're all about zombies, so I'm trying to watch everything I can about zombies and everything. And when I came across that, I was like, oh my god, this is so well done, especially the way you made it look really authentic. Like this film footage was way back in the day, and oh man, I thought
that was something that was really fun to play with. Was like, how do we make it feel as authentic as possible, like a cheesy Ken Burns documentary?
Yeah,
and that was the goal.
That was awesome. It was even my son. I let my son watch it. He was like, "This is great. I want to do one of these." He just turned 18. So I want to do one of these. You want to make a documentary like that, but there's a lot of documentaries that are, what is it called? Mockumentaries. They're just not that well done. This was like if you weren't paying attention, you think, what is this about? What happened? Is this real? You guys did a great. The writing was fantastic. Some of the lines in there that you guys thought of, in the acting, like it really happened. It's almost like a spoof when you see people's reactions on documentaries, the way they're so serious, and I really think that we were there, I was like, this is so great. You did a great job. I love that one. I really do.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
That was great.
Your daughter's name?
Lila Morales.
No, I have to tell. I agree with Saul when he said that it's a very original take on the Frankenstein story, but in a more maternal kind of way, I would say. That was your original idea, because there is the relationship between these two women. Well, kind of Victor and Igor, as Saul put it, in a way.
I don't want any trouble. I just need to know what happened.
I can't help you.
Yeah, that's a different kind of relationship. I found it more based on Frankenstein, but not like a retelling or a different version of Frankenstein, but just a movie that is based on Frankenstein's monster, actually.
Yeah, I think inspired by, even more than based on. It's like, I definitely became obsessed with Mary Shelley once I started learning about her. And then I think she fused in my mind with Victor Frankenstein. And I started out just writing letters from prison from the point of view of this doctor to the mother of the child she reanimated. So in the original kind of conception of this, she reanimates a child, the mother discovers her, calls the cops, basically, and then ends up with a child who is not really her own after accepting her death, and the woman goes to prison. So that was like the very first version of this, which is obviously not the movie. But it's interesting. Yeah, I didn't feel burdened at all by trying to tell the story of Frankenstein. I was like, it's not a remake, it's not a retelling.
Right.
I think it's a selling point, in this industry to say Frankenstein helps get people to come see it.
Agreed.
But
No, that's true. I
yeah.
agree.
Yeah, but it's
There's
much
a
more like
lot.
Dead Ringers. Dead Ringers, I think, is a closer
Yeah.
comp than Frankenstein.
There's something in there. Well, there's more than just something. There's a lot to take away from it. But I've been in the medical field for a long time. When I was in the Army, I was a medic, and we always had ER rotations. And one of my first experiences in the emergency room was Sid's child, who came in, and we did everything we could to save this baby. He was a big boy. I think he was 2, and that doesn't usually happen just to 2-year-olds. They don't usually get SIDS. But after it was all said and done, I remember I'm standing in the hallway, and I'm looking at this mother, and the doc is talking to her, and she just breaks down, and I'm thinking, how do you go on with the rest of what do you do today? What is going to happen? And there's a scene in the film where Rose she's holding the Ziploc bag of her kid's belongings.
Oh, Seely. Yeah, Seely is.
Oh, yeah, I mean Seely. Yeah. That just it blew me away because it's not something that maybe everyone would pick up on, but for me, I'm like, yeah, where do you go? How do you go on with the rest of your day? This is it. This is what I have with my kid, a Ziploc bag full of her clothing.
Yeah, and we talked about this a lot because, one of the challenges in the writing of this piece is there's a sequence that I call the devil's bargain, where like she actually discovers her child in the house, figures out or is told what this woman is doing, and then gets on board with becoming her partner. And it all happens pretty damn quickly, and that's deliberate because I didn't really want to spend a lot of time on that sequence. I was much more interested in what happens next. But we also needed it to feel believable. And one of the things I talked with Judy Reyes about a lot when she was preparing for this role was that she needed to sort of bottle up her grief, that, in some ways that character is really in denial that this is actually happening and doesn't really believe that her daughter's dead. I mean, it's magical thinking, right? But she wants to believe that her daughter's alive so that when she finds her alive, as crazy as it is, it sort of confirms what she already thought. And so Judy, I think, did a phenomenal job of not expressing her grief. She's not quite processed it yet. And I think that's more powerful to me than to see someone wailing, even if that's, an accurate.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if you look at her, the way she holds that bag close to her, like if it was her child, that was powerful, and I agree with you. That scene tells a lot of the story, just that one scene.
Judy's a really emotionally driven actor, and that's something like she picked up on immediately. Much away. She said, that's where I need to be. That's where I would not go anywhere. I would not go with 1 foot away from this freezer.
Right.
And I think she just, it's such a gift as a director when an actor's that tuned in and they give you these things that, may affect your idea of how you would block the scene, but they just make it so much better.
Oh, they were phenomenal.
Also, I really noticed a great chemistry between the 2 actresses, Mary and Judy. I mean, they are amazing. I don't know, they knew each other before the film?
No, they had never met. It's an indie film, so we had 2 days of rehearsal, which were really just them meeting for the first time, and then we read through the script once. I had spoken to both of them at length on Zoom mostly before that point. But Marin is a very accomplished theater actress. She's been on Broadway a lot. I knew her from the kind of New York theater world. And Judy has done so much television that both women have like tremendous stamina. They like really know how to deliver. They know how to memorize 11 pages and make it feel lived in. So they came so prepared. And I mean, I was incredibly nervous. The first scene that we filmed with them is actually the first scene where they officially meet, where Seely comes down to the morgue and discovers Rose kind of creeping around there looking for her daughter. And it was after we shot that scene that I thought, okay, the movie's going to be okay, because these women have this kind of electrical tension between them. And that was a relief, because you're never sure, until it happens.
Yeah. And I have to say that the character, Marin's character, is so well written. It reminds me a lot to, kind of a Sheldon Cooper creepy version, someone that has problems interacting with people. At the same time, he does this thing not out of evil or whatever, just out of this obsession about achieving this scientific goal. And it's very interesting because she started as a very, creepy character, but despicable in many ways. But then you discover its story. How did you write his the character, and also the story of the behind of that character? When the
Yeah, I mean, it's a great reference. A lot of people bring up Herbert West and Reanimator. So I work with a co-writer, and we tend to, especially in a two-hander like this, we'll both kind of each pick a character that's our character, and we become the advocate for that character. And Rose is 100% me. I mean, well, okay. To clarify, I think I'm a very like point A to point B person. I can get very focused. I think it's helped me as a director, to really think about, where I'm going, and then shut out everything else around me.
Right.
So in that way, I can really relate to Rose and her mission. It was important to me that she fundamentally doesn't want to create suffering. She wants to do some good for humanity, but she's lost the ability to see human beings individually while she's doing it, right? So her veganism was really important. The fact that like she does, of course, cause lots of suffering, but it's not deliberate. And in fact, even when she's in the very first scene of the movie, she's kind of berating her coworker who needs to go, help his son. And I remember talking to Marin and saying, you're helping him, you're giving him advice, and it's good advice, and it's smart, and that's how she really played the role, was very much, she always has the purest intentions. And then, I think as the movie goes, if we've done our job, her interactions with both Leela and Celie really start to soften her. She starts to really get it back in touch with a wound in her life, which was her kind of inability to emotionally care for her mother when she was dying. This was all like very detailed backstory that we wrote. And I think the challenge as writers is always like, how much do you have to explicitly say? There were definitely drafts of this script where we explained much more of her motivations and her backstory. And at some point you start stripping those things away, that scaffolding, and then you just let those moments shine through, and you hope that makes the audience curious, that makes them lean in. But it's always hard to know how much to tell and how much not to tell.
I tell you what, the scene that really shows me her personality, or how far she's gone from separating herself, is the bar scene. Yeah, I was like, wow, she is like, I am flat A to B, I'm on a mission, and that's just what I'm doing.
Yeah, I love that scene. I think it definitely says a lot about her.
Yes.
And I think also the place like men, I would say, don't hold in her life. The funniest thing about that scene was, of course, I was concerned about Marin and wanted to make sure she was comfortable. We shot it very early in the shooting schedule, but it's an incredibly tough scene for Bryant Carroll, who's the actor she's opposite, and I just remember like how fabulous he was and what a trooper he was. But it was a pretty funny scene, very tight bathroom, very challenging to shoot.
Oh, I bet it was very challenging to shoot. Across the board.
Did you use when it's an indie film, so in general you're restricted, you have a lot of restrictions concerning the locations, how you deal with that? Here in Argentina we ask favors from friends, like, can you let me shoot here? I don't know, in your case.
Yeah, I mean, we had some money, but not a lot of money. So we were technically a union film, and we were the lowest paying union film in New York City at the time. So it wasn't so much asking friends, although man, I've done that on every short that I've made. But it was about finding the cheapest available locations that still gave us the feelings that we wanted. I always wanted this to be a build, the apartment. I wanted to build it, but I'm a production designer by trade. And so
I saw that.
you
Yeah.
know, we couldn't afford to. There was no way. So we did, you know, when you don't have the budget to build your set, you need to just put the extra legwork into finding the perfect location. And we found a great apartment that had just, I think the tenant had just died. And so it had this kind of strange lived
Laura.
in, feel, I know. And then the hospital was really lucky for us because it was actually like a physical therapy facility that had then during COVID been retrofitted to be an overflow hospital, but never used. So it was an unused hospital in New Jersey. And we got it pretty cheaply, but it was empty and unfurnished. So that was a real challenge because it's like expensive to furnish, you know, and a certain TV show that I don't think I'm supposed to name, a medical TV show in New York was canceled about a month before we started shooting. And we very kindly borrowed all of their sets and then returned them. But we were able to sort of use our connections in the industry to get a lot of free medical equipment, which I think was probably the most expensive part of the design.
Indie schedule, indie budget. I mean, timing. Oh my God, I can't imagine how tough that was for you. Then just thinking about timing and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we were greenlit to shoot this movie in 2020. So we were supposed to shoot it in the fall of 2020. COVID happened, and then it became clear that the amount of money, even when productions started coming back, they were big productions. You know, HBO can afford to shut down for 14 days if people get COVID. That would have killed our movie. So we really needed to wait until the COVID costs went down enough that we were still getting a lot of the value on screen. We ended up shooting in the summer of 2022. And it was really tight. I mean, we wrapped in August 28th September 28th. And we went to Sundance in January. So post was incredibly tight. And yeah, I just feel lucky that I worked in the film industry because I think that in that way I was able to call in all my favors. You know, it's the first feature. So that's where you call in all your favors and you get the free and cheap labor from friends. Hopefully never again.
I have to say,
Fonz, I know I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry. There's so much going on in my head.
No, I really love the film. Actually, I can't believe it's your first feature here. As I told you, a lot of people love it. I hope next time I can. And last year we did that. We recorded the public reaction and we sent it to the directors in LA, and they were really touched by all. But really, I mean, it's considered one of the best in 2023. It's there with When Evil Lurks. So
When Evil Lurks. I said I didn't see that. Did I say that earlier?
Yeah.
No, I did watch it. I don't know why I said that. I was like, wait a minute. That was like fantastic.
No, people were like saying, okay, these are the two this film and The Coffee Table and rebirth. There was a big discussion about what was the best. People love your film, and wow, it's amazing.
We should set up a viewing When Evil Lurks with her. That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, actually, I will send to Demian your film, and you can review When Evil Lurks, and Demian can review rebirth.
I would love that. I mean, it's been a great year. It's been a great couple of years for horror. You know, Talk to Me premiered during the same festival with us, so we got to hang out with some of those guys, and that film took Sundance by storm as well.
How big was Shudder for you guys?
Shudder was everything. I mean, we struggled to find a financier for this movie. We don't have traditional jump scares. It's not a traditional horror film. It was really in 2020 in January when we were part of the Sundance screenwriting labs that suddenly we were able to take a lot of high-level meetings. And I met Emily Gatto, who's one of the 3 people who run Shudder. And she loved the script and she just greenlit it. They financed the whole thing by themselves. They didn't acquire us. They created us. And you know, it's been a really great partnership. I love how expansive their definition of horror is. I love that we're on the
Yes.
same platform as Skinamarink and, you know, Speak No Evil. Like they're such
Mhm.
different films, but they are, yeah, it's great to not have it sort of feel like one thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. They're taking risks. I mean, they are
Mhm.
accepting a lot of ideas. I mean, that's why I love your film. It's original at the same time. It's bold, and it's in a way it's a dramatic story about this. And I wanted to ask you about you know, which part of the characters you feel more connected with the character of Judy and the character with Mary, that you feel, well, I feel more connected to this part of.
Oh, yeah, Rose. I mean, I'm Rose. Brendan is Celie. It's very clear.
Oh.
And even our DP who lived with us while we were shooting, there's one point at which they're not the big fight, but they're sort of bickering. And she just started laughing and she's like, you guys fight like that. This is like one of your arguments. Like, yeah, we just wrote ourselves into the movie.
It was it on purpose. That one character is here, and I'm working with dead people by choice. The other one is neonatal. Was that symbolic and on purpose? Because I thought, wow, that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's a lot of binaries in the film that I wanted to explore, you know, motherhood and career. I mean, Celie does have a career. She's not a stay-at-home mom, but like, but her identity is tied into her view of herself as a mother. And Rose's identity is tied into her discovery. Yeah, it was very important that Celie is bringing life into the world and Rose is, you know,
awesome. Wow.
You know, lighting up dead people downstairs, you know, and even that upstairs, downstairs montage at the opening was really important to us to kind of, the two women actually don't meet until 20 minutes into the film. So it's really important to figure out how to juxtapose them and make it clear to the audience that like something's going to happen with these two. Just wait.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I felt. I said, man, when these people butt heads, this is going to be something. The symbiotic relationship that they developed, though, man, that was powerful because I thought, you know, if it was my kid, how far would I go? What would I do? Would I be pissed at this woman, or would I say, oh my God, do I have a chance to get my kid back? That's rough. That's a rough question to answer. I mean.
Yeah. And Judy, you know, I was always nervous about that. I'm not a parent myself. And so, you know, I was nervous about sort of the credibility of Celie and how that was going to feel to an actor. And Judy has a great kid. And Judy was like, of course I would do that. I would do anything. I would, you know, I would do monstrous things. And
yeah, right.
You know,
I would do monstrous things.
I would do monstrous things. She's a lovely person. She, you know, but it's like, yeah. And that, for me, it was really important to consult with mothers a lot during this process. Our DP, and I say this only because she's talked about it in interviews, had an emergency C-section. And so when we were planning that opening, it was very much like me recording Chananan's experience. You know, we were just talking about her subjective experience of that. So it was just so valuable to be like, okay, I don't have to have had every experience in this movie in order to direct it, to make sure my collaborators are really coming from those perspectives as well.
Right. I have to give props to you because I cannot imagine what it's like to work with a pig.
Oh, it's the worst. Don't do it. It's really bad.
100 do not recommend.
I mean, the only thing I recommend is like all of our crew turned into like little kids as soon as the pig went on set. You know, they were all so happy and delighted, but I was not, because yeah, getting a pig to do anything.
It's not like Babe.
No, it's not like Babe. This pig was a bit bitey. This pig was very food motivated. Yeah, no. She was the biggest diva on set. She had the biggest entourage. She was like a big deal. Yeah.
Are they dangerous? I mean, they bite people.
Well, it's funny, you know, when Brendan and I wrote this, we had a teacup pig in mind, like a little tiny pig, which turns out not to be a real thing. That was a scam. They sell you teacup pigs that just grow into adult pigs. That's just baby pigs.
Oh,
and
there's no
every once in a while,
pig.
every once in a while, I guess there'll be a runt that like never grows up, but for the most part, they become giant animals. And you can't train a baby pig, so we couldn't the smallest pig we found was her full name is Anjali Lakshmi Srinivasan. She lives in an apartment in Jersey City. Yes. And she was 50 pounds lighter than the second smallest pig that we found.
Good God.
So it was like, you know, she was bigger than I wanted her to be, and yet she was the smallest pig around. And so, yeah, it was Anjali or bust. We really, that was it.
There's one, well, the scene of the abortion for me was, I mean, I remember being, it's for me really disturbing. I mean, how did you film that? How did you talk about with Marin about that scene? How did you, I mean, because you really decide, I mean, in those kind of scenes, you have to decide how to show it, what to show, what was that process, how was that process?
Yeah, I mean, I think with that scene and also with all the scenes with Rose involving nudity, it was very important for me to storyboard them, spell them out with Marin, and talk about my intentions, you know, really clearly, because I think for actors, they can feel very out of control in those moments. You know, Rose is pretty dissociated from her body. She's using it like a vending machine. And, you know, I think that was something that was important for me to talk about with Marin, that of course she feels pain and she feels discomfort, but she's not emotionally connected to it. And I think Marin did such a phenomenal job of that, these are, you know, people have asked me a lot, and I'm very happy to talk about my personal politics. I mean, I'm very pro-choice and unapologetically so, but I did not want to feel like this was a political statement in the film. I really wanted it to come from Rose's understanding of her own character and her own worldview. You know, to her, this is a collection of cells that are hers, and she's collecting them to do her experiments. And I didn't want to sentimentalize that any further than that. You know, so even the moment where Celie discovers the fetus in the jar, I didn't want to zoom in and do a crazy sound. You know, I wanted to make sure that we were like letting those moments unfold and letting them affect the characters, but not putting any more statement on them, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah.
I actually,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. By not showing, you make it, you know, more disturbing for the audience. Actually, there's always this line. Sometimes I feel, especially, you know, newcomer directors, horror directors, they show too much. But you are amazing. You have this kind of intuition. How, I mean, there was a discussion between the other writer about how far you were willing to go and to show, or
I mean, I think, you know, Brendan did take my lead on that. You know, we talk about this stuff a lot, but because ultimately I have to direct it, you know, I often am making a lot of those visual choices in the script. But yeah, I mean, I think it was very important to me that we show an open body at the beginning of the movie, and that was controversial. There were people that were like, okay, why are we showing an open body cavity, you know, from jump? And, you know, one of my references that I kept watching was this Stan Brakhage documentary called The Act of Seeing with One's Own Eyes, which I think is the literal translation of the Greek word autopsy. And it's just an autopsy. I mean, he films very beautifully. He films an autopsy in a pathology lab. And I kept watching it. My DP kept watching it. We talked about how sort of unflinching the gaze was. You know, another big reference for us was the movie Safe, where the Todd Haynes film, where it's like very slow, observational, dispassionate camera work. And I think that was really important to us, you know, and helped create a language for the film. So we wanted to show that body. I think maybe also to prepare the audience for like, anything can happen here. And then, yeah, it was not important to sensationalize that later. It was like, you know, just we're dealing with bodies. And for Rose, you know, the autopsy is a ballet.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy those scenes, especially through the eyes of the character. Again, Marin, she's amazing. I mean,
she's amazing.
Are you planning to work again in another horror sci-fi film? I would love to, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to work both with Marin and Judy again. Like, I would jump at the chance. We wrote this role for Judy, and everything I write is going to have them in mind for sure. But yeah, my next film is actually a film that Brendan and I wrote before this. It's called Gordon, and it's a movie about a misdiagnosed sociopath, a young man who at age 5 may or may not have accidentally set his sister on fire, and then is raised in an institution and then comes into the world as an adult, trying to be a good person. And the world is kind of sociopathic and it's kind of bending to get him to do bad things. Very much about like diagnosis and expectations that come from diagnoses. So I'm hoping that one's next, but it's obviously a male lead, but it's a lot of pretty meaty roles, and so I'm hoping to get Marin and or Judy in there if I can.
I gotta compliment you on your eye. I mean, the scenes you shoot to me are, like you said, like zooming in on the fetus, not doing that. I watched Erica, and when I saw that, I was like, man, this again looks like it's back in the early days of was it the 80s, early 80s. And then you're a great storyteller because at the end of Erica, my wife and I were perplexed. Like, so what do you think happened? And it led to a good conversation between us about what happened at the end of her story. And
do you mean Friday?
No,
Erica?
I think, yeah, it's with the one with Erica.
Ted Bundy?
Yeah, Ted Bundy. Yeah.
It's called Friday. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Friday. I said Erica. It is called Friday. FRY Friday, not Friday at the day. Yeah. It was great because the storytelling is good, and I have 5 daughters. And I am so leery about their life outside of our home and in men, because right. And when I saw that, there's so many women who have to go through those kinds of things, and a lot of guys don't realize it. Maybe I'm a little more sensitive to it because I have daughters and I know guys because I'm a guy, and they don't understand when I say no, you can't do that or whatever. There's so much in that story. So I think, man, she's a great storyteller, because if you're really paying attention, it's not really about Ted Bundy. It's so much more to this story. And in the same with Birth, Rebirth, there's so much more to your stories. And I know that your next one, I think, is the one that you tried to get greenlit, but they were like, oh, this is too big.
Yeah, and Friday was actually a proof of concept for that. Friday is related to that world. So yeah, so a later scene in Gordon takes place, and the backdrop of that scene is the Bundy barbecue, so to speak, this very real tailgate party that erupted across the road from the prison where Bundy was executed. So we took that setting and very different characters and made a short. But the idea was to also, with the feature script, if you watch that short, you would understand that this is our intention for the feature.
Right. Man, I look forward to it. I'm with Alphonse. I think that it's going to be another interesting thing to watch, because for me, I see a lot of movies, and because of my relationship with Alphonse, I look at movies differently now. And I mean, some of the worst movies, there's so much you can take from it, and you have to know what you're going into. And a lot of movies I like to go into blind, but I look forward to whatever it is you're coming out with, because for me, you're a great storyteller. I enjoy the cinematography, what to shoot, what not to shoot, how to shoot. And then, your early stuff to me, I'm like, man, this is great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, every movie is a miracle. I really believe that. And once I started making them, I stopped criticizing all movies because I know how hard they are to make.
It's hard, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
but
what I've learned.
I think the best part of making movies is the collaboration. And if you take the pressure off yourself, if you don't buy the idea that you actually have to be an auteur that knows everything, and you work with filmmakers in every department who are better than you at what they do, that's the beauty of it. You know, Chananan, my DP, is really a genius, and our production designers, Courtney and Hillary Andahar, who are identical twins, and you know, they're directors in their own right. You know, we had Ariel Marks, our composer, is brilliant. So, you know, that's the beauty of it, is that my job is really to make sure we're all pointing in the same direction, but you give them a lot of freedom to do their own thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with Sol. I mean, I love horror, but I love my favorite horror films involve drama, like compelling stories. And for me, Birth Rebirth is it deals with the one of the worst fear a parent can have, losing their child, and what would they do. So to recover how far should it will go. And for me, that was the hook. That was the most compelling thing. And I really I want to thank you because it's difficult to find this kind of films nowadays. So thank you very much, and I will continue promoting your film so you can make another one soon. I mean, I hope you can, please.
Thank you, and I would love to come visit and
yes.
participate.
Well, in May or April, we're doing it. I'll say
please.
So I'll send you a mail about showing your film, because I would love to show your film. So with all the horror fans, I mean, actually, I have a lot of friends who ask me, I want to meet her. Yes, ask her to come to Buenos Aires. No, I'm not joking, really. I mean, that people love your film, and
I would love that. Yeah, let's stay in touch, because
have you ever been to Latin America or Argentina or?
No, I've never been south of Mexico. It's very sad. So I would love to. You know, it would be a dream.
For Sol too. I mean, Sol is a writer, and in Argentina we have big tradition of fantasy writers, Jorge Luis Borges, Cortázar. I will give you the full tour if you come, so you can make it.
Yes, please.
He says he has a lot of friends. He knows everybody. I don't know. he really is a social butterfly. He knows everyone.
Yeah, actually, I like to talk to people. So I met people outside Argentina, and I know more people, for example, in New York than people that live in New York or LA. Actually, I would like to introduce some people in LA. The last festival we screened The Wave by director Gil Clavin. He's an amazing sci-fi film with Justin Long. He's in LA, so I will connect you with him.
Please put us in touch. Yeah, I'm there. Usually I'm a New Yorker, but I'm in LA until February. So I was away for the holidays, so I'll have plenty of time.
Excellent. No, excellent. Please, because I want to introduce people. Do you like sci-fi? By the way, because I mean, we are talking about a horror here, but there's a lot of sci-fi element. Actually, Frankenstein would be considered for some the first sci-fi novel. Are you a fan of sci-fi, science fiction?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm a huge fan of horror, and I'm a huge fan of sci-fi, but I think, like you know, it's interesting. I think my favorite films and my least favorite films are horror movies. And I feel, because I have passionate feelings about them, so there are some films that really get under my skin in not such a great way. And I think I feel that way about science fiction, where, grounded science fiction, I love, like science fiction that's dealing with deeper philosophical issues, I love. And sort of surface science fiction, not my thing. So, it just depends.
I totally, my favorite films, horror film, for example, are Jacob's Ladder. That, it's disturbing, but it's a drama. I end up crying in the final scene.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, is that a horror film? That's an interesting question, because and I get that all the time. When I talk to people about my work, I often call it horror adjacent, because I'm like, it's not, there are no jump scares, and there never will be. And, but I think people who are fans of horror might like it. But I don't, if you call it horror, sometimes you disappoint, because people have different expectations for what they're about to see.
Yeah, but that's the kind of films you remember. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a film I want to recommend you. It's called Nocturna. Have you watched Nocturna?
Oh man,
No, I
yes, of
haven't.
course. Oh, you haven't?
Oh,
Okay, so
no.
that's one you have to add to your list too. That
Okay.
is
It's
wow, yeah, you got to add that one to your list.
I mean, it's the actor. It's a 90-year-old actor called Pepe Soriano that plays a 100-year-old guy. It's a couple of old people living alone in an apartment. The guy is senile, but at the same time, he's perceiving different paranormal ghosts. So it
Oh.
makes this, he's losing their mind, and it deals with loneliness. It deals with the fear of losing your mind. It's
Oof.
Yeah, it's deep. It really is.
Yeah.
And so well done. There's actually A and B to that movie, but both should be watched, I think. Don't you agree?
Yeah, side A, it's a film from the point of view of the elder it's couple, and the B is an experimental movie trying to show the perspective of the ghost. And it's a very experimental movie because ghosts perceive time in a non-linear way. So, well, I told the director Gonzalo, is a friend of mine, this is a masterpiece, actually, but he doesn't believe that. He believes it's okay. And one in the Scream Fest in LA, they say it's the best film. Pepe Soriano is amazing. And I mean, but he has been doing films. He's like 60, so he saw in Argentina doing films, horror films, very difficult. He doesn't believe in himself, but it's a masterpiece. Come on, Gonzalo.
He's super humble.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see it. Yeah, that sounds right up my alley.
We talk your ears off about movies, I tell you.
Yeah. Please watch it and then tell me what you think. I'll send it to Gonzalo. I used to send the voice message to the people that saw the film to Gonzalo to cheer him up. I mean,
I did that to Damien. I did it to Damien. As soon as I finished his movie, I messaged him, voice messaged him, and you could hear in the background the closing score. And that's what he sent me back. I can hear the music. I recognize that song, but it was so good. And I really like to, I don't know. It's hard. It's easier now to get in touch with people like you and say, hey, how are you? This is really great. And what you did is great, and compliment you. But I think, the people behind the scenes, they need to know that, man, I did a freaking great job. That freaking story was powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it matters to it's very vulnerable to put your work out there. And it's a double-edged sword with the internet. People tag me online in bad reviews of this movie, and I'm like, you don't have to do that. You can,
yeah, right.
I don't need to know that you didn't like it. That's fine. But it always means something when someone takes something specific away and meaningful. It's terrible, but after a lot of screenings of the film, not just women, a lot of men have come up to me and talked about experiences they've had in medical situations where they weren't believed, and how much this movie kind of brought up that and hopefully was cathartic around that for them. But it's when a movie touches someone, it's really wonderful to hear about it.
And for anyone who doesn't like it, it's just not for you. Move on.
That's fine. No, it's fine. It's just like you can leave. You don't have to tag me.
Yeah, no, but who does that? I mean, in general, tag when you do a positive review, not a bad one. I mean.
Yeah.
No, but trust me. I mean, it's very well reviewed. People love the film. I don't know who didn't. I mean, I don't know anyone.
No, I don't know anyone who didn't like it.
Oh, just
if they did, I unfollowed them.
No, I just stay off of Letterboxd. Brendan reads all those, and then he sends me the good ones or the funny ones. But
Letterboxd has a mix of. No, really. Don't
I
worry.
use Letterboxd to keep up with my movies. My mind, I forget a lot of things.
Same.
I tag you in this friend Oski Dark Book, who's a reviewer of books. Watch your film. I tag you there. He really loves the film, and he sends you regards. He had to my blog, so. If you come to Argentina, he said he wants to meet you, ask you a lot of questions. He reviews books in general, but he told me that he felt it looked like an adaptation of a novel because it's so well written. I mean, somebody tell you also that that it's.
I mean, no, but I love to hear it. That's really lovely. You know, I think as we talked about before, it was really important to us to be really detailed about the backstories of these characters and then strip that away. And I think we're adapting a novel now, that one that, you know, we obviously didn't write. And that is the challenge is, you know, with a novel, you have such interiority. You can literally have a character sitting and thinking, and it's not very cinematic, but it's powerful. And so how do you sort of externalize what's going on in someone's mind, and how do you show their character, you know, physically or visually? It's a real challenge when you're adapting a novel. So I'm just discovering those challenges right now.
I got one last thing that just popped into my head that I wanted to ask, and that was the confrontation between the two main characters. When you're writing, I'm sure there's an iteration of that maybe the confrontation was more aggressive, or how did you go about that, taking care of that aspect of things? Because I'm thinking, you know, in the outset, I'm gonna lose my shit, you know, but I mean, because there's a lot that happens between the two of them. I mean, they're like almost a queer couple who are co-parenting, and you know, the arguments that couples have and stuff, you know, everyone has it. And I just wondered if there was a deeper or a more graphic argument between the two in the writing, not in the film, but in the writing.
In the writing and in what we shot, that final like blowout between them, I think that's what we called the scene, the blowout. It was longer. And it just didn't need to be when we cut it. But, you know, I come from a musical background. You know, when I was a teenager, I thought I was going to be a musician. I was a percussionist. And I think that's something I thought about a lot when we were sculpting the arc between the two of them, was sort of the musicality of it. You know, we would write these scenes that were very honest, but sort of repetitive. And you look at it all together and you say, okay, we don't need that. We've done that beat already. It sort of doesn't feel, you know, what is the musical swelling of this relationship? And I think it definitely culminates in that, you know, mad scientist princess bitch moment. But you know, how do we ramp up to that, and how do we get there? And you know, and at the end, I did not want this to be an adversarial relationship. I wanted it to sort of be, you said you were in the Army, like, you know, not to compare or trivialize, but that like these two women have been through an experience that no one else understands. There's no one else. And so they are, you know, like Army buddies, you know what I mean? In a way where it's like they are at the end bonded, because who else could you ever explain this to? And so even though they have these moments of tension and conflict, we wanted to make sure that we didn't give them anything to say or do that they couldn't come back from and bond again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, man, you really crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's in this. I really enjoyed it.
Well, Laura, thank you very much. I will keep continue, you know, pushing your film, promoting. I hope you can send it in our festival. I'll send a mail to you, so you can send it to each other. I think it's
yes, yeah, I can include them. I have to stay in that email thread, or else it'll get lost. But so send it to me. Yeah.
Please.
It's funny. I just wanted to meet you and say hi and say thank you. This is fantastic. I really appreciate your time and bearing with me and my little man over here making noise.
Well,
thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, let's keep in touch. I will introduce you to all my friends there. Bye bye.
Definitely. Thank you. Have
Bye.
a good day.
Thank you.